The mahogany conference table gleamed under the artificial lights of Bennett Industries' main boardroom. I adjusted my simple black blazer, bought off the rack at a department store, exactly what my family would expect from their struggling youngest daughter, and took my usual seat at the far end of the table. "Sarah dear," my mother's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment, "you could have at least worn something more appropriate for a family business meeting." I glanced down at my outfit, hiding a smile. The blazer probably cost more than her entire designer ensemble, but they'd never know that. Just like they'd never bothered to ask what I really did for the past 5 years. My brother Michael strode in, every inch the heir apparent in his tailored suit. He'd taken over as CO 3 years ago when Dad semi-retired, a position he'd neither earned nor deserved. But in our family, being the firstborn son trumped little things like competence or vision. "Still playing secretary at that little tech startup?" He smirked, settling into his power position at the head of the table. "What do they call you there, executive assistant to the assistant executive?" I kept my expression neutral. "Administrative director," I corrected, though it didn't matter. They'd already written their own version of my story. Dad entered last, still carrying himself with the authority of a man who'd built an empire, even if that empire was now slowly crumbling under Michael's leadership. Not that anyone would admit it. "Before we begin," Michael announced, shuffling some papers importantly, "I think we need to address the elephant in the room." He fixed me with what he probably thought was a compassionate look. "Sarah's situation." Here it came. I'd been waiting for this moment for exactly 3 years, 2 months and 15 days. "The family image is important," my mother added, her perfectly manicured hands clasped in front of her. "And frankly dear, working as a secretary at your age, it reflects poorly on all of us." I thought about the meeting I'd had just that morning. The final signatures on documents that would shake the city's business world to its core. The Forbes photographer who'd left my real office, not the tiny cubicle my family had never bothered to visit, just hours ago. "We've been patient," Michael continued, "hoping you'd come to your senses. Return to the family business where you belong. In an appropriate role, of course." "Of course," I echoed softly. "What did you have in mind?" "Well," he smiled condescendingly, "we could use someone to organize the company archives. Maybe handle some basic administrative duties." My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. A message from Marcus, my actual CFO. "Contracts signed. Press release scheduled for 6 p.m. I checked my watch. 2 hours until everything changed. "The thing is," Dad leaned forward, "the Bennett name means something in this city. And your current position, it's becoming embarrassing." I thought about the Bennett Industries stock price, down 40% since Michael took over. About the clients they'd lost, the innovations they'd missed, the future they couldn't see coming. "Did you know," I said carefully, "that the tech sector is announcing a major acquisition today? Biggest deal in the city's history." Michael waved his hand dismissively. "Some startup probably burning through venture capital. Nothing that concerns us." "Interesting perspective," I murmured, thinking of the papers sitting in my other office. The ones that would show exactly who was burning through what. "Sarah," my mother sighed, "this is serious. We've found you a position at the country club. Assistant to the events coordinator. Much more suitable for someone of your background." I studied her face, wondering if she'd even recognize the woman featured in tomorrow's business section. The one they were calling a tech visionary, a silent empire builder, the future of innovation. "The timing is perfect," Michael added smugly. "That little startup you're working for, what's it called? Nexus Tech? I hear they're having financial troubles." I bit back a laugh. Nexus Tech was my smallest holding company, deliberately kept modest, deliberately struggling on paper. The perfect cover for what I'd really been building. "Financial troubles?" I asked innocently. "What makes you say that?" He preened slightly. "I have sources. Inside information. They're about to be acquired by a major player. Probably clean house, strip the assets. You'll be out of a job anyway." My phone buzzed again. "Marcus, media alert in 10 minutes. Preliminary leak to build suspense." "Actually," I said, standing slowly, "I should probably head back to the office. Lots of paperwork to handle with this acquisition you mentioned." "Don't worry," my mother called as I headed for the door. "The country club position starts Monday. We've already arranged everything." I paused at the threshold. "That's thoughtful of you. But I think I'll be busy Monday." And probably every day after that. Doing what? Michael scoffed. Filing papers for your soon-to-be unemployed boss? Just then, every phone in the room chimed simultaneously. Breaking news alerts. I didn't need to look at my screen. I knew what it said. Breaking. Major tech acquisition to be announced at 6 p.m. Sources say largest deal in city history. Mystery buyer to be revealed. Some startup burning through venture capital, I quoted softly, watching Michael fumble with his phone. Nothing that concerns us, right? I walked out, leaving them to their confusion. In less than 2 hours they'd learn exactly what concerned them. And exactly who they'd been underestimating all these years. The next hour passed in a blur of final preparations. In my real office, the entire top floor of the gleaming Atlas Tower downtown, I reviewed the press release one last time while Marcus paced nearby. They have no idea, do they? He asked, adjusting his tie nervously. Your family? That you're about to own their company too. I smiled, remembering Michael's smug certainty about his inside information regarding Nexus Tech. He'd been right about one thing, it was being acquired. What he didn't know was that Nexus was just a small piece of my larger corporation, Atlas Technologies. And Atlas had just completed a hostile takeover of Bennett Industries' largest competitor. By tomorrow, Bennett Industries would have exactly 2 choices. Merge with Atlas or face complete market obsolescence. They're about to know everything, I said, standing to adjust my blazer. The same simple black blazer that had so disappointed my mother. Are we ready? Marcus nodded, checking his tablet. Press conference set up downstairs. All major networks confirmed. Your family will probably see it live on TV. Perfect. I moved to the window, looking out over the city I'd quietly conquered while playing the role they'd assigned me. Time to rewrite the story they've been telling about me. At exactly 5:55 p.m. I stepped into the elevator. Marcus handed me a small folder, the only prop I'd need for what came next. Your mother's been trying to reach you, he said. Apparently the country club called to confirm your start date. I laughed softly. Tell them I'll have to decline. I'm afraid I'm otherwise engaged. The elevator doors opened to reveal a lobby packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. A podium waited at the center, the Atlas Technologies logo displayed prominently behind it. As I walked to the podium, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from Michael. Turn on the news. Some tech company is about to announce a massive takeover. Could affect our market position. I slipped the phone into my pocket without replying. He'd find out soon enough exactly how it would affect their market position. The cameras flashed as I took my place at the podium. Somewhere across the city, in the Bennett Industries boardroom, my family was probably gathered around the television, waiting to see who this mystery tech buyer was. I smiled directly into the cameras, knowing the moment had finally arrived. Good evening, I began, my voice clear and confident. I'm Sarah Bennett, CEO of Atlas Technologies. The rest would be history. The aftermath was immediate and explosive. As I finished my press conference, revealing not just Atlas Technologies' acquisition of Bennett Industries' biggest competitor, but also our groundbreaking AI technology that would revolutionize the industry, my phone exploded with notifications. 27 missed calls from Michael. 15 from Mom. 43 from Dad. 89 text messages and counting. I sat in my office, watching the sun set over the city skyline while Marcus brought in the evening news reports. Tech visionary Sarah Bennett emerges as city's newest billionaire. Atlas Technologies' acquisition reshapes industry landscape. Bennett Industries faces uncertain future as competitor falls to former CEO's daughter. Your brother's been trying to get into the building, Marcus reported, setting down a fresh coffee. Security turned him away 3 times. I nodded, picking up my phone to read the latest message from Michael. This is impossible. You're lying. This has to be some kind of mistake. Call me immediately. Then from Mom. Darling, we're all so proud. Why didn't you tell us? The country club position is obviously no longer necessary. I set the phone down without replying. Through my office windows I could see the Bennett Industries tower in the distance, where I knew they were probably having an emergency board meeting right now. Ms. Bennett, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your father's here. He's in the lobby. I checked the security feed. There he stood, Richard Bennett, looking smaller somehow in the vast marble lobby of Atlas Tower. His usual commanding presence diminished by confusion and dawning realization. Send him up, I said after a moment's consideration. And Marcus? Pull up the merger proposal. While waiting, I studied my reflection in the window. Still wearing that simple black blazer that had so offended my mother's sensibilities this morning. Amazing how different the same outfit looked when framed by a billion-dollar view. The door opened and Dad stepped in. His eyes took in everything, the sophisticated technology displays, the wall of industry awards I'd kept hidden, the commanding view of the city he thought he knew. The secretary, he said quietly, almost to himself. All this time we thought. You thought what you wanted to think, I finished for him. Never asked, never looked closer, never questioned why a Stanford MBA with a perfect GPA would be content as a low-level administrator. He sank into one of the visitor chairs, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Why the deception? I turned to face him fully. Deception? I built this company openly. Filed all the proper paperwork. Even used my real name. You just never bothered to look. But Nexus Tech was a small subsidiary. A cover story for a family that wouldn't understand or accept what I was really building. I sat down behind my desk. Did you know Michael tried to buy them last year? Offered them pennies on the dollar, thinking they were struggling. Dad's face showed he hadn't known. He was negotiating with my junior VP, I continued, who reported directly to me. Every lowball offer, every arrogant comment, every time he called it a little woman-owned startup that needed a real businessman to take charge. Sarah. He began, but I held up my hand. Now we should discuss the merger proposal. Merger proposal? I slid a folder across the desk. Atlas Technologies is offering to acquire Bennett Industries. The terms are generous, considering your company's recent performance. He opened the folder with trembling hands. This would mean. It means Bennett Industries becomes part of Atlas. You keep the name, keep some autonomy, but ultimately answer to our board. I paused. To me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of dismissal and underestimation. And if we refuse? I pulled up a market analysis on my screen, turning it so he could see. Then you compete against us. Against our superior technology, our growing market share, and the fact that as of an hour ago, we own your largest supplier. His face paled. The Morrison Group acquisition. That was you too. I nodded. Like I said, the terms are generous. For now. Michael won't accept this, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Michael just lost your 3 biggest clients to us this afternoon. They signed the transfer contracts right after my press conference. I leaned back in my chair. He doesn't have to accept it. The board will do that for him. Just then my phone buzzed with a news alert. Bennett Industries stock was plummeting in after-hours trading. Dad saw it too on his own phone and seemed to deflate further. You've thought of everything, he said finally. I learned from the best, I replied. You always taught us to be thorough. To see 10 steps ahead. I just applied those lessons differently than you expected. A knock at the door interrupted us. Marcus entered with a tablet. Sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Michael Bennett are in the lobby. They're insistent. I looked at my father. Your choice. We can all discuss this now, or you can take the proposal back to them. Either way, I need an answer by morning. Dad stood slowly, clutching the folder like a lifeline. We'll discuss it as a family. No, I corrected gently. You'll discuss it as a business. That's what you always wanted, isn't it? For me to take business seriously. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. The secretary role, all those years, was the perfect cover. No one questions the quiet woman taking notes in the corner. No one edits what they say around the person they think isn't important. I smiled slightly. Even you never noticed when I stopped bringing coffee to meetings and started buying your competitors. After he left, Marcus brought in the evening reports. Your mother's called 6 more times. Michael's threatening to sue for corporate espionage. Let him try, I said, turning back to the window. Every document is perfect. Every transaction legal. They raced me to be thorough after all. As night fell over the city, I watched the lights come on in buildings I now owned. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more family drama, more attempts to regain control. But for now, sitting in my office in my simple black blazer, I was exactly where I needed to be. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them realize they never really knew you at all. The morning after my revelation brought exactly the chaos I'd expected. I arrived at Atlas Tower at 7 a.m. to find the lobby already buzzing with activity. Reporters camped outside, financial analysts making predictions on morning shows, and my family, well, they were making their own kind of noise. "Your sister's on CNBC," Marcus reported, falling into step beside me as I walked to my office, claiming she always knew you had potential and supported you from the beginning. I smiled, remembering Amanda's words at last month's family dinner. At least I'm doing something worthwhile with my life, not just pushing papers at some startup. And Michael issued a press release. Says Bennett Industries welcomes the opportunity to collaborate with emerging tech companies and looks forward to guiding your innovative but inexperienced team. I settled behind my desk, opening my laptop. Send him the latest market reports. Show him exactly who needs guidance. The numbers were devastating. Bennett Industries stock had dropped another 15% in pre-market trading. 3 more major clients had already contacted Atlas about transferring their contracts. And the morning's financial papers were running stories about Michael's history of failed initiatives and missed opportunities. "Your mother's in the lobby again," my assistant's voice came through the intercom. "With your Aunt Patricia this time." I checked the security feed. Mom stood there in her designer suit, trying to charm the security desk while Aunt Patricia filmed the lobby on her phone, probably for her social media where she'd already posted 3 times about her brilliant niece who takes after my side of the family. "Send them up," I said. "And Marcus, bring in the family trust documents." While waiting, I reviewed the morning's acquisition reports. Atlas's stock had surged another 20%. Our AI technology announcement had sparked a buying frenzy, and the patents all in my name were already being called revolutionary. The door opened and Mom swept in, arms outstretched. "Darling, why didn't you tell us? We've been worried sick." "Have you?" I remained seated. "Funny, you weren't worried yesterday when you were arranging my country club job." She faltered slightly but recovered quickly. "Oh, that. We were just trying to help. Obviously you didn't need it. Though you might have said something." "I did. Many times. You just never listened." Aunt Patricia was still filming, panning across my office. "This will be perfect for my Instagram. My niece, the tech mogul. The country club ladies won't believe it." "No photos," I said firmly. "And no social media. The only statements about Atlas come from our official channels." "But we're family." Mom protested. "Surely we should be involved in the narrative. Like you involved me in the family narrative?" I pulled up some old social media posts on my screen. "Here's you last Christmas. So proud of Michael's leadership of Bennett Industries. At least one of my children understands business." She had the grace to look embarrassed. "And here's Aunt Patricia. Some people work their way up, others settle for secretary work. So disappointed in my niece's lack of ambition." "We didn't know," Aunt Patricia started, but I cut her off. "You didn't ask. None of you did. You wrote your own story about who I was and what I could achieve." I stood up. "And now you want to rewrite it to include yourselves?" "The answer is no." "But the family name," Mom began, "is exactly why I built Atlas under my own terms. No nepotism, no family connections, just pure merit and innovation." I pressed the intercom. "Marcus, bring in the media contracts." He entered with a stack of documents. "Standard NDAs," I explained. "If you want to maintain any connection to Atlas or me personally, you'll sign these. No unauthorized statements, no social media posts, no carefully edited family history." "This is ridiculous," Aunt Patricia huffed. "We're blood. Blood doesn't give you the right to claim credit for success you actively discouraged." I handed them each a pen. "Sign or leave. Either way, the story of Atlas Technologies will be told my way." Just then my phone buzzed. A message from our legal team. Michael was calling an emergency Bennett Industries board meeting, trying to push through a poison pill defense against our merger offer. "Excuse me," I said, gathering some files. "I have a board meeting to attend. But we haven't finished discussing the family implications." Mom protested. I paused at the door. "Actually, we have. You can either accept the new reality or keep living in your old narrative. Either way, Atlas moves forward." The Bennett Industries boardroom looked exactly as it had yesterday morning when they'd mocked my secretary job. But now, sitting at the head of the table as the potential acquirer rather than the dismissed daughter, the dynamic had shifted dramatically. Michael stood at the front, desperately trying to rally support. This hostile takeover attempt is just that, hostile. We can fight this. Our family legacy is failing, I interrupted quietly, making every head turn. Your leadership has lost 40% of company value in 3 years. Your innovation pipeline is empty. And as of this morning, your largest remaining client has signed with Atlas. You can't just walk in here. He started. Actually, I can. Atlas now owns 15% of Bennett Industries shares, purchased slowly over the past year while you were too busy mocking my career to notice the buyer. The board members shifted uncomfortably. They'd all seen the morning's market reports. This isn't a hostile takeover, I continued. It's a rescue mission. Atlas can save Bennett Industries, modernize it, make it relevant again. Or we can let it fail under current leadership. And I suppose you think you should lead it? Michael sneered, but the effect was weakened by his obvious desperation. No, I replied calmly. I think Bennett Industries should be led by someone competent. Someone chosen for ability, not birth order. The board chairman cleared his throat. Perhaps we should hear Ms. Bennett's full proposal. For the next hour I laid out the merger plan. New technology integration, market expansion, job security for most employees. By the end, even Michael had fallen silent. The vote was unanimous. Bennett Industries would merge with Atlas Technologies, keeping its name but operating under my larger corporate umbrella. As the board members filed out, Michael remained behind, staring at the empire he'd lost. How long? He asked finally. How long have you been planning this? I haven't been, I replied honestly. I built Atlas to create something new, not to take over something old. You did this part yourself, Michael. Every time you dismissed innovation, every time you chose prestige over progress, every time you called me just a secretary, instead of seeing me as a potential ally. I gathered my things, heading for the door. The merger paperwork will be ready tomorrow. Don't be late. And Dad's position? He asked quietly. Will be honored as chairman emeritus. You'll be offered a position too in corporate development. A chance to learn what you should have known before taking power. The next few weeks transformed both companies. Atlas's technology revolutionized Bennett's outdated systems. The merged entity's stock soared. And my family, well, they learned to live with a new kind of narrative. Mom stopped arranging suitable jobs and started asking about the ones I'd created. Michael, stripped of his CEO title but learning humility in his new role, discovered he actually had talents when he wasn't trying to prove his birthright. Me. I kept the simple black blazer now hanging in my office as a reminder. Not of where I came from but of how far I'd gone while they weren't looking. Because sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right even when no one else can see it. And sometimes the best revenge isn't in taking over a family business. It's in building something so much bigger that the family business becomes just a small part of your larger legacy. 6 months later, I stood in my Atlas Tower office watching the city lights come on. The Bennett Industries building, now just one small piece of my corporate empire, still stood where it always had. But its lights now shone with new purpose, new technology, new potential. My phone buzzed, a message from Marcus about tomorrow's Innovation Summit where I'd be giving the keynote speech. The topic? Building success in silence. The power of being underestimated. I smiled, remembering all those family meetings where they talked over me, around me, through me. They never noticed that the quiet one taking notes was actually taking names, taking stock, taking control. Their mistake. My victory. And I was just getting started.